Welcome back to Cody in the Cinema, and today we're discussing Destry Rides Again, the famous 1939 Western featuring Marlene Dietrich in one of her best roles alongside of James Stewart. A movie that appears to be a comedy on the surface with a few dramatic moments, but is actually quite a powerful political statement and a memorable, unique, fun to watch Western. So as a plot refresher, Stewart is brought in as this deputy in this town. And the reason he's brought in is because of the fame of his father and how good of a lawman he was. And the only reason he's even brought in as a deputy is because the town he's going into is extremely corrupt. The mayor and another oligarch land grabber are basically setting up card games with Marlene Dietrich's barmaid character so that they can steal land. And when Stewart arrives to be the deputy, the only reason he's the deputy is because they're so corrupt that they make the town drunk as sheriff. When he arrives, they expect very early on that he's going to be an extension of their political power. In other words, they want the lawman to help enforce their monetary interests. Now, this is a concept that I didn't invent. This has been discussed in all kinds of different political ideologies, the idea that the sheriff or the law will actually just help oligarchs to fight against the common man. That seems to be commented on here, and it appears that maybe to them at first, okay, he's going to go along with our plan. I mean, look at him. How couldn't he? He's weak, he's feeble, he has a lady holding an umbrella over him, he doesn't have guns. But what happens is they find out that he's just a little bit more into a pure reading of the law, and he also does not want to use violence if he doesn't have to or at all. And when I was watching the Criterion, one of the interviews on the supplements, someone made a comment that I really disagree with and has stuck to my ribs. She was disappointed a little bit because Stewart transformed from a pacifist to someone who has to use guns in the end. And to her, that sort of brought down the message of the movie. I disagree with that entirely. And I disagree with any viewing of the film like that. I think this is nothing of a pacifist movie. In fact, I think this is a highly politically charged movie because the violence that the state is allowed to use and the violence that anyone else is allowed to use seem to be at odds with each other. Now, we think about the role of women like Marlene Dietrich in this, for example, and she is in that drag-out fight with another woman over something to do with her man. And, I mean, even right there, we established that violence is how human beings interact and gain power over each other, right? And I said that I was going to, just spoilers, if you haven't seen this. In the end, women take up arms and interfere with the fight. They take up arms and literally fight against the ruling class, money interest that's grabbing the land. Like that's political. And I understand all the comedic elements that come before that, but nothing about the message of this movie to me is pacifist. In fact, it's the desire to avoid violence that actually seems to get James Stewart both into trouble and keep out of it. Now, this isn't straightforward. This isn't saying that all power is gained through arms. But at the same time, the movie suggests that maybe sometimes you have to, maybe you don't. It really walks this careful line that I appreciate. Now, Marlene Dietrich, somehow a career that was glamorous, that was very ritzy, that was losing steam, maybe she was even going to quit acting, was brought back to life by this down-to-earth, working-class kind of woman in this movie, and you can kind of see her throughout the film transform from being an arm of the state, in this case an oligarchy, and becoming something different, something more of a working class hero. And I believe that even if people don't see all those, or didn't at the time see all those ripples, now, looking back, that was probably part of the reason it was so popular. In actuality, when you remove propaganda of oligarchs from the equation, people really don't like having their land stolen because they don't have as much money as the other guy. And I think the movie is commenting on that in so many ways. And we see Stewart transform from I'm not going to touch a gun to I have to, whether I want to or not. I mean, he puts on both of his guns and he goes and engages in an act of violence in the end, and it's a pretty entertaining piece at the end there. And so I don't think this movie in any way ever intended to be peace conquers all. That's not the reading of the movie I have. In fact, I believe that this movie is very aware of labor movements in the past, and you could go on down that rabbit hole if you wanted, but at the same time, I do think it acknowledges that violence is deadly and that it's awful that it has to exist in the world. And so I've tried to film this multiple times, this video, because I keep changing my mind about what it's actually saying. Is this movie saying that violence is a tool of the state and we should avoid violence? Is this movie saying that we have to fight back against oligarchs? What is it saying? I don't know exactly, but I do know that I don't think it's saying, be nice and everything will work out for you. Or is it? This is a complicated movie that's also funny in the beginning and has some truly heartfelt moments. Those are some of my rambles. I've only seen this once. I wonder if I'd change my mind on another viewing. Anyway, I hope you see what I'm getting at. I would like to hear from you below in the comments because this movie to me is wide open in terms of interpretation. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Click like, subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.